everything matched to what he could find out. So, I mean, yeah. And then, I had Gordon on, who's out of he's British, but he's living now in France. And he's
Gordon Smith. He's a friend of mine.
Oh, he is one cool, awesome guy. We were talking about kids, because I have had 8 kids. Out of 8, I had one child, my first daughter, that when she was a child, around 4 or 5 years old, she would have an imaginary friend and always talking, and I figured, hey, good imagination. But one day, I was watching her as she was talking to her imaginary friend, the direction she was looking. We had 2 cats, or actually 3 cats, but 2 of the cats were in the front room, in different locations in the front room, and they were looking at the object, or where she was looking at, and just keeping eye contact with something that wasn't there. And my feeling is a lot of people, like what Gordon feels, that young kids, the majority of them, by the time they hit 7, they lose that ability of remembering their past lives.
A child has so much to learn, and, their brains can only accommodate so much. And I think the problem is, and this is why I really admire Gordon's work, is because he's trying to work with parents to tell them to recognize these things, because it can set a child's path for life. For example, if you have a parent that says, oh, you're going to be a dentist when you grow up, well, maybe that child wants to be a gardener. What's wrong with that? Maybe they've lived outdoors all their lives, and worked in trees and gardens and things like that. And you take them out of one setting and put them in another, and you ruin that child's mission. There was something for them to learn in that garden.
Well, I blame my mom then. I'm glad you said that, because my mom, kept telling me I will be a minister or a priest when I grow up. That's when I was a little kid, and she used to all the time tell all the, the neighborhood, people that, she socialized around, he's going to be a priest. He's going to be a priest. And I kept saying, no, I don't want to be a priest. I want to be the president of the United States. Well, I grew up, I never became a priest, and I never became a president of the United States. So I blame my mom on that, because, I lost my focus, what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a politician. That's where I seen where, that's what I wanted to do. But, what can I say?
So have you ever explored why you want to be a politician? Is it related to something in a past life?
I don't know. Is this something that,
You need my workbook.
It's funny. Like a lot of kids, would be into, playing Army when I was a little kid, or playing other stuff. What I discovered when I was a little kid? Talk shows on the radio. So here I was, like 4 or 5 years old, listening to different talk shows, and it has never stopped. So, that's, probably why I wanted to be a politician, because, back them days, they didn't talk paranormal. They're not talking about what we're talking about right now. It was all political, or what was going on in their town, or whatever. Been a big change in the last 10 years in the paranormal. So, I mean, now we have shows like what we're doing right now.
Thank goodness we do.
Oh,
because this is where the real crux of life lies. Because people need to get in touch with their soul and what they are doing here and what their mission is. There's lots of books, like the famous book, Your Purpose-Driven Life, and things like that. But it doesn't address the soul's mission that could have been carried out for millennia. That the soul is working on certain issues that they've been doing for hundreds or maybe 1,000 or more years. I mean, I know that I was a seer in ancient Greece in 5 to 4 BC. Well, so in this life, I'm highly intuitive. Back in the old days, it would have been called a prophet or a seer. Same thing.
Yeah.
How many years have I been doing this?
No, I got to ask you this question, and I don't know if I asked you last time. When did all this really start hitting you? I mean, you were in Pompeii, where you felt is that when it started hitting you, that around that time frame?
Well, no, I was always very sensitive. My mom was kind of hard on me emotionally. I was an identical twin, And my mom used to say that I was my daddy's twin, and my sister Mary was her twin. Well, my parents were divorced when I was 4. So guess what? I felt like I didn't have a parent anymore. And to circumvent my mother's temperament, I became very intuitive. I was probably already intuitive, but I had to always ask myself, can I say this to Mommy? Can I say that to Mommy? Can I do this? Can I do that? It was a constant dialogue in my brain of what can I do, what should I not do to make Mommy happy. Everything was about making Mommy happy, right? Isn't that what every child wants to do?
Well, they want their parents happy, yes. I mean, the kids will go great lengths to make them happy.
I thought, my mother doesn't love me. She doesn't care about me. It's obvious she's lavishing all her attention and affection on my older brother and on my twin sister. She took good care of me. I'm not saying she was abusive that way. She was emotionally abusive at times, but mostly it was just, I was there, and I've got this in my new book, my workbook. My mother's, the way she treated me, honed my intuitive skills as a child. Had she been lovey-dovey with me all the time, and anything I did was perfect, like it was with my sister, I never would have honed my intuitive skills the way I did. So, in retrospect, at the time, it was difficult to go through, but looking back on it, I had the greatest mom in the world because she prepared me for my life.
And she didn't even realize it.
I think at a certain level she did because she believed in reincarnation. We didn't talk about it a lot. She had an NDE, a near-death experience, the year before I had one, and that opened the door to a dialogue between us to talk about it. And after going through that NDE, and I gave her a poem about my reincarnation experiences, my past life experiences, we developed a wonderful dialogue that lasted for almost 2 years. And it changed her life. And I had her dear friends tell me, they said, we don't know what's going on with Marge, but my mother's name is Margery, too. They said, we don't know what's going on with Marge, but we've never seen her so peaceful. Well, what they didn't know is that she and I had a reconciliation and a meeting of the minds. And I was able to tell her over and over again, I'm glad you treated me the way you did because you made me intuitive. Being intuitive saved the life of my daughter and my son when they were infants.
Well, how did that save their life?
How did that happen?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was with some friends, and their children were playing with my daughter, and they were in another area, and this higher sense, this intuition said to me, I call it my silent voice, said, go check the baby. And I said to my girlfriends, I said, I got to run check the baby. They said, oh, she's fine. We hear the children laughing and giggling. They're all fine. I said, no, I've got to go check the baby. She was 7 months old. I ran into where she was. The children had rolled a 7-month-old baby up inside a sleeping bag.
Oh, wow.
And made it was like a cushion, and they were laying on her. And it was like, oh my God. And I picked it up. I screamed, and I picked it up. And I didn't scream at them. I just, oh my God. And I picked it up, and it was not moving. This was a lifeless form inside this bedroll of, this infant. And something told me to lay it on the floor and just unroll it real quick. And so I laid it on the floor, and I was pulling the end of it. And you know how long a sleeping bag is. You can imagine how long it would take to unroll a 7-month-old wrapped up in one.
Yeah, I mean, boy, I can. That's instant.
With a flash jerk, her little body flipped up in the air, and she landed flat on her back on the carpet. And when she did, she went, ugh, like that. And you could see this white body turn pink again.
Well, I wonder how long she was being suffocated. I mean, that.
So, if I was not intuitive, which I learned by tiptoeing around my mom all the time as a child, I never would have saved my daughter's life. I would have ignored that prompting, or maybe not even had that prompting, go check the baby. And then years later, my son is almost 7 years younger than my daughter. It was a Friday afternoon. It was hot in Atlanta, and I picked up my daughter from ballet school, and my son was supposed to pick up the baby from daycare. And I had this prompting to go down a street. Now, this is in my book, Finding Margaret. This story is in my book, Finding Margaret. It said, go down Church Street, which is a street in Decatur, Georgia. And I never went down Church Street. It was the wrong way to go home. My husband was supposed to pick up the baby. I was picking up the little girl, my daughter, and we were all going to go home and have dinner together. But I had this prompting, go down Church Street, go down Church Street. And the car just kind of drives the wrong way, goes down Church Street. And off in the distance, in the parking lot, I see this big, bright, green Jeep truck. Now, big, bright green Jeep trucks may be very common today, but back in 1972, they weren't. And I thought, oh, my gosh, that's my husband's truck. It's sitting in a parking lot. He's supposed to pick up the baby. That idiot, why didn't he pick up the baby from daycare? And as I'm driving by this parking lot, I see this little red head. And it was my baby. And he was locked in a hot car, burning up.
Oh, wow.
If I had not gone down Church Street that day, my baby would have died.
So, my
intuition and my mother's instinct said, go down Church Street. And I found my baby in a hot car. And now you hear about babies all the time dying in hot cars.
Well, where was your husband at, may I ask, at that time?
He had parked the truck and gone around the corner to an auto parts store to buy some parts.
Boy, it doesn't take long. I hate to say it, my father used to do that when I was a little kid. He would not stop to think about it. My father had a big mouth, just like me. And he used to like going into every electronic store in the world. And I'd be like 5, 6, 7 years old, and it'd be summertime. And, he would, like roll the windows up and, say, hey, don't touch anything in the car. Just sit there. I'll be back in a minute. And, I'd be, sweating like you wouldn't believe. I mean, one time I was literally sick where I was throwing up inside the car. He was mad at me because I threw up all in his car, and then we got home and my mom explained to him, well, you could have killed him because, I mean, you could imagine the temperature in a car,
Yeah.
in summertime with the windows rolled up and you left him in the car for almost an hour.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I remember that distinctly, I mean, it was just like it was yesterday. I tell you, I really feel like if he wouldn't have came out when he did, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I mean,
oh, wow.
So you were lucky that you went and, something told you to go and you found your daughter. I mean, thank God.
So many people have that prompting and they don't pay any attention to it. Now, there's been times in my life I didn't pay attention to it when it applied to me, and it's always been to great peril.
Well, years ago, I had a friend, that he had airplane flight he had to go on. And I knew him from business I was in, and we became good friends. And he kept telling me, like the night before, he goes, I just don't feel like I should go. And I go, well, what is it? And he didn't know. He just felt like he shouldn't go. Well, guess what? He went in and took the flight, and the flight never made it. But something he didn't know what it was, but something just, have you ever got in a car and you just felt like you don't want to go anywhere because like if you're going to go to the store or whatever, you just feel something like uncomfortable all of a sudden in your mind. Me and my daughter had that problem here a couple weeks ago. We almost got hit head on by a car in a roundabout that the car went around and came in the wrong side. Yep. And, it came right at us, and I avoided it. But it was funny. It was like I told Alyssa before we got in the car, I said, I really feel like maybe we shouldn't go today. Something in my own mind, I felt like, I just didn't want to go because I had a weird feeling. And boy, that was a weird feeling. It came true. And I go by my feeling because I ride a motorcycle. And right. There's days, or my friends will say, hey, let's go riding. And I'll go, no, I don't want to because, that night I maybe had a weird dream or something just didn't set right. And I go by my feelings. And, it's just. Yeah,
your higher self always knows what's best. And and we're trained not to listen to it.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
we're trained, and I call that my eternal soul. Now, because Margaret was my immediate prior incarnation, a lot of times I'll just say, Margaret said it. You know, it's